Hello everyone, my name is Techno and today I'm making this video just to let you know how I would get into the cloud industry if I could restart. And the reason why I'm making this video today is because I have officially hit my promotion, so now my title is Cloud Support Engineer instead of Cloud Support Associate. I want to make this video as a way for everyone here to watch and kind of learn and think that it is possible, 100% possible, to get into the cloud industry when you started from nothing. And for those of you that don't know, I used to be a lifeguard. That was my first job that I've ever had when I graduated high school. Not even before high school, but right after I graduated high school. And in between my time from being a lifeguard and up until now a cloud support engineer, I have learned a lot of lessons, developed my career path, and now I'm making this video as a way for you to realize that it is 100% possible to get to where I am as long as you put in the time and the effort. So how do you do it, right? How do you get into the cloud industry, or for that matter, how do you get into the IT industry? Well, it all comes down to, in my previous videos, I've been mentioning this over and over again. It's either experience, certifications, or education. You gotta have one of those three criteria in order to even get into the IT industry. But before I talk about that, let's talk about who I was when I was a lifeguard and what I did, and then I'll talk about me now on what I am currently doing and what I will be doing in order to keep leveling up in the career path. Let's go back in time. When I was 18 years old, I was a lifeguard. I got paid minimum wage, as in $7.75. Actually, slightly above minimum wage. According to Texas, minimum wage is $7.25, so I got 50 cents above that. During this time when I was a lifeguard, I was still in school. I was in community college and I had 0 IT certifications. So what did I do during this time? And what are some of the things that I've learned over time that somehow developed my career path? Well, the first thing that I did was learn how to be customer obsessed and how to talk to people, have that people skills experience, so that way I can transfer that into, the help desk industry. But we'll talk about that in just a second. As a lifeguard, I learned what it was like to just work. I learned what it was like to take on shifts, to learn how to use PTO, and kind of just learning how to talk to customers and de-escalate situations. That was the biggest takeaway I got from being a lifeguard. So even though I didn't get paid, a lot of money, it was just fun money. The next thing I did was get another job, and this is another customer service job, and that was working at Starbucks. Woohoo, so fun making coffee, right? Same thing. I still learned how to talk to customers, de-escalate situations, take orders, finish those orders in an adequate amount of time. But during that time, I was still in community college and I was about to transfer over to my university. I worked at Starbucks for about 1 year, and during that 1 year, I actually gotten 2 certifications. So I got the A+ certification, and on top of that, I got the Cisco CCENT certification. Although right now it's deprecated, I did learn a lot about networking, and my gosh, I would say getting into networking is a little bit confusing when you first start because there's so many things that you have to learn. But over time, when you get experience or just get those certifications, you actually learn a lot more about it and it gets easier over time. So let's talk about my college experience really quickly. This was during COVID, and this is when I still learned how to self-study. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I got during COVID, during my time in community college. And the reason why I say that self-studying is extremely important is because you are learning how to learn. And when you learn how to learn, it kind of teaches you a little bit more about yourself. What works for you, what doesn't. I was the kind of guy that never liked reading textbooks. I hate reading textbooks. Even to this day, I still do. So how do I learn? Well, I'm a visual learner. So I would go onto YouTube and I would just watch videos about networking. That's how I got my Cisco CCNA certification. I literally just watched YouTube videos on how to study for that certification, as well as studying networking in general. So YouTube videos were my biggest helper. And on top of that, when I was in my university, Western Governors University, my way of studying was to always go on Reddit because there's a lot of students that kind of talked about their experience and what worked for them. So I would take those experiences that they've learned and kind of put it and applied it to myself. And I figured that, okay, if the student took these resources and used those resources to pass, why can't I? So I took those experiences and applied it to myself. and studied how I would like to study, which is watching YouTube videos. And after reading a few textbook material, because obviously you have to know the theory, as well as watching YouTube videos, I just kept knocking out certification after certification. Going back to my whole experience, let's say now I quit Starbucks. I got to go into my first full-time job, which was just being an Apple repair technician. It wasn't that grand, but it did teach me about the whole 9-to-5 life, what time you should wake up, what time you should drive to work, how to get back home, and it just taught me on how to get into the real world. It didn't teach me much about IT in general, although I did have, some MacBook experience repairing it and all that, which was cool, but it didn't really help me into getting into the IT industry. It was just a position where I just got to learn what it was like to work in the real world. Now, this is now forwarding to the good stuff. This is where I got my first IT help desk job. Keep in mind, during this time, I still had two certifications, A+, Cisco CCENT. And during this time when I was in the IT help desk position, I was able to finally learn how to work with computers. I worked with real world problems for the first time, because when you're in college, you don't really get to learn real world stuff. You just learn theory, or you could do labs, but those labs, they might be outdated, or they're just not super relevant compared to working at an actual job. So when I got this IT help desk job, it taught me so much. But before I even got onto that job, let me talk to you about my experience kind of applying to the IT help desk job. What did I do to prepare my resume? What did I do to apply? How did I study for the interview and all that good stuff? Because I think this is where a lot of you guys might be at, where you have experience, whether that's customer service experience, or you might even have technical experience, you might have certifications, or you might even have an education at a university or anything like that for the IT industry. It doesn't really matter which area you're at, but the point is you are trying to get into the IT industry or even the cloud industry for that matter. Let's talk about how to get in. And I've said this throughout my previous videos, but I'm gonna say it again. You need to make sure that you tailor your resume. And once you tailor your resume, you want to make sure that you have those keywords on your resume, so that way, whenever you apply, HR likes your resume, it looks good, or even before it gets to HR, the bot that reads your resume likes it because it has those keywords. So once you have that, the next thing to do is to always study for your interviews. Because before I got into this help desk job for the first time, I applied to multiple IT help desk jobs, but I always failed those interviews because I always thought that I'd be prepared to do it cold turkey. But it turns out you actually do need to prepare for it, and you can't just walk in and expect to ace it no problem. So that's the first thing, right? So it's getting that resume, it's preparing for that interview, and then really all there is to it is just applying to as many jobs as possible, and to always keep doing those interviews over and over again, because interviewing is a skill. So now that I've walked you on how to get into this IT help desk job, let me talk to you about what I did during this time. So I worked for about 1.5 years as an IT help desk technician, and I've learned a lot about dealing with real world problems. Like, for example, I got to see how a printer works when it connects to the network, how subnetting works when you have different departments, and why it is important to keep those departments separated from each other. And on top of that, I got to learn troubleshooting. I got to learn how to document while troubleshooting as well. And I think documentation is the most important part, because even to this day, as a cloud support engineer now, I still have to document everything that I do whenever I'm working with customers. So this is a habit that I think you should work on, which is just to document your journey. And whenever you're troubleshooting, write down everything that you've done, and that way you have it as a record. And if you ever interview with employers and they ask you about your projects or anything that you've done in the past, so that way they kind of understand that you know the steps on how to write down everything that you've been doing and kind of the lessons that you've learned along the way. After working at an IT help desk job for 1.5 years, I've realized that I've hit my max potential, as in I've learned everything that I needed to learn as a IT help desk position, because every problem that I've seen it before. I didn't really gain new knowledge. And so this is where you can split up into two different paths, right? Path number one is you stay with the same company and you aim for promotion where you gain a new title. So instead of IT help desk position or whatever that might be, you are now in the system admin position, network admin position, or even junior network admin. Anything of that nature, that's your promotion, right? And I think that's the most important part, which is aiming for something higher. You don't want to stay at the same level, especially in the tech industry, because everything keeps changing. Technology keeps growing, standards keep changing. You want to make sure that you keep yourself up to date. And when you promote, you get exposed to new things, new challenges, new problems. And I think that's very crucial, very vital to everything that you do, which is gaining experience. Because if you don't gain experience, you're not gonna be able to transfer those experiences to a new job or to a new promotion. And I think that's extremely crucial to have. So that's path number one. Path number two is finding another job, another position at a different company. And the reason why there's pros to this option is because number one, your salary will probably increase. Number two, you might be able to negotiate for the benefits that you want. You can apply to jobs where they might have a work from home option, but let's not talk about working from home and more on just going into your career path. If you decide to move on to another company and you decide to move on to another position, you want to make sure that you still prepare for those interviews, you still brush up your resume so that way it looks good for your employer. And you rinse and repeat, do the same thing, apply to that job, kill your interviews, and once you do that, you're golden. And you're gonna gain a lot of new experience, and it's okay to face challenges. It's okay to feel like you don't know enough, because at the end of the day, when you're in the IT industry, you're gonna have to keep learning. Or it's not even just the IT industry, it's almost any industry. You're gonna have to keep learning no matter what. So if you feel like you don't know enough, that's okay. Just keep on learning, take everything that you've learned, document it, and you'll be okay. So everything that I've been telling you up until this point is basically how I was able to go from a lifeguard to a cloud support engineer. And I want you to take this video with a grain of salt and kind of apply it to your own experience. Apply it, go to another job, another position, and just keep leveling up. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. My name is Techno, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace. Also, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to this commenter. I'm more than open to respond to your comments, and if you have any suggestions to how I should improve my video, feel free to let me know and I'll be able to make those small adjustments so that way this video becomes much more easier, much more digestible to you. So thank you so much.